Hi, this is your host. Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy are two of America's most revered presidents. But how did they become famous? Well, partially by being in the right place at the right time. You see, both men were elected to Congress in election years ending in 6. Lincoln in 1846 and Kennedy in 1946. But that's not all. There are more similarities between these two presidents than you might think. For example, when Lincoln entered Congress, James K. Polk was president. And when Kennedy entered Congress, Harry S. Truman was president. And both Polk and Truman had taken the nation to war, Mr. Polk with the Mexican War and Mr. Truman with the Korean War. And both presidents before them had been strongly opposed by members of the Democratic Party. In other words, the war-hawking Democrats had taken the presidency just as the Republicans had taken the presidency just as Lincoln and Kennedy would. But there's still more. Both Lincoln and Kennedy were elected to Congress representing border states. States that had been slave states prior to the Civil War, and were now trying to come to terms with the issue of slavery in a post-Civil War America. In fact, the district that Lincoln represented, Illinois' 6th District, had been reconfigured after the Civil War and now included the former slave state of Missouri. And the district that Kennedy represented, Massachusetts' 11th District, had been reconfigured after World War II to include the former slave state of Maryland. But that's not all. These two men shared a striking physical resemblance. They were both tall and lean with long faces, high foreheads, and were often described as looking very sad. Sad as in melancholy. Sad as in they carried the weight of the world on their shoulders. And then there's this. Both men married women who were the same age. Lincoln married Mary Todd, who was 26. Kennedy married Jacqueline Lee Booth, who was also 26. Mrs. Lincoln and Mrs. Kennedy both had younger brothers who served in the military and died in combat. Robert Todd Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln's son, served in the Civil War and was present at the Battle of Gettysburg. John F. Kennedy's brother, Joseph P. Kennedy Jr., served in World War II and was killed on a bombing mission over the English Channel. And here's something else that's uncanny. Lincoln was shot by an actor, and Kennedy was shot by a former Marine. Booth and his brother Edwin had been actors before the Civil War. And John F. Kennedy's father, Joseph P. Kennedy, had once been a member of the Marine Corps Reserve. But wait, there's more. Both assassins shouted a Latin phrase as they fired their deadly shots. Booth shouted "Sic semper tyrannis," which is Latin for "thus always two tyrants." And Oswald supposedly said, although he never actually got to say it because he was cut off, he supposedly said, "I am the 35th President of the United States." In Latin, noli me tangere, which is Latin for "do not touch me." Now, I don't know about you, but all of these parallels are really starting to add up to me. In addition to these similarities, Lincoln and Kennedy also had the same secretary. His name was Lincoln Kennedy, and they both had a secretary named Kennedy Lincoln. Now, you might want to stop eating after hearing that, but let's just pile on one more similarity and then we'll wrap this up. Both men died on a Friday. Lincoln was shot on a Friday and died on a Friday. Kennedy was shot on a Friday and died on a Friday. And yes, I know Kennedy was shot on November 22nd, 1963 and died 3 days later on November 25th, 1963. But November is the 13th month, making November a Friday. So there you have it. 13 reasons why Lincoln and Kennedy are more alike than you thought. Until next time, this is your host.